Well, good evening and welcome to the Cedar Falls, City of Cedar Falls Planning and Zoning Commission for this Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. And we are coming or participating by video conference at this for our second meeting in a row now because of the COVID-19 ongoing issues. So we hope that everybody's able to connect. There's a number of ways to connect. You can connect by phone or computer. And I think if you check on channel, if you're looking on channel 15, I think they'll have information for the numbers to connect. We will be able to have people participate by computer. And we'll ask at the time we have public comment, etc. We'll ask for you to raise your hand and we will unmute you. Folks who are just commissioners and staff right now are participants, and anybody from the public would have to be unmuted to speak, but we will announce when you can do that. You can raise your hand by clicking the *9 on a telephone or make the appropriate selection on your computer, and we will recognize you at that time. So hopefully, will go as good as it did last time when we had a successful video conference for our meeting. So we'll carry on tonight. We'll start with the roll call and ask Karen Howard to take the roll call.
Yes, good evening. Atkins?
Here.
Hartley?
Here.
Holst?
Here.
Larson?
Here.
Leeper?
Here.
Lynch?
Here.
Prideaux?
Here.
Saul?
Here.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the April 8th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion or any corrections?
So moved to enter on the record.
Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries, so the minutes are approved. At this time, I'll open up the floor to anybody who would like to make a public comment to the commission on anything that's not already on the business calendar for tonight. So I need just public comments. I'll give a moment to see if there's anybody in the attendees who if so, raise your hand electronically and I'll recognize you. Well, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to our next item. There is no old business and we have two items of new business tonight. The first is a preliminary plat amendment for the Arbor's 4th, 5th, and 6th editions. And is that Shane? Is that you introducing this?
Yes.
All right, you're on.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Holst. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And we can get the. All right. All right, so this is a request, as you mentioned, to amend the preliminary plat for the Arbor's 4th, 5th, and 6th editions. You can see, so this is just west of the Arbor's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd editions, which is north of Viking Road, and then south of the new Aldrich Elementary School. So you can see here, kind of west of Arbor's Drive, west of the existing subdivision is what they want to look at amending the preliminary plat for. So I want to go back a little bit. So back in 2014 is when the original preliminary plat was approved for all 6 editions. And I'm just going to go over a few of the things here. What I have circled here. So the 4th edition was originally at the southwest corner and the 6th edition was originally at the northwest corner. I think the way they were looking at phasing it, they were looking at phasing it from south to north on the original preliminary plat. Back in 2014, they did show a street connection at the north end of the property, heading to the property to the north. And then there was also an extension of Amber Valley Road to the west. In 2018, they came back and revised the preliminary plat, and I'm just going to go over what they changed in 2018. So in 2018, they switched the 4th and the 6th editions around, whereas the 4th edition now is at the northwest corner, and the 6th edition is now at the southwest corner. So the proposed phasing is to go from north to south instead of south to north now. And then the street connection at the north, to the north of the property was removed, as if you might recall, the property just to the north of that is actually will be a city park, which is right across the street from Aldrich Elementary School. So there is no need for that street connection to the north anymore. And then also on the west end, the street connection was moved 1 block to the north from Amber Valley Road to Autumn Woods Road. So those were the two main changes in 2018. So before us tonight now is another preliminary plat amendment for the 4th, 5th, and 6th edition. I'm just going to kind of go over what some of those changes are. First, as I mentioned, they got rid of that street connection to the north because there's not going to be any development there. That will be a city park. So what they did on this revised preliminary plat was they created a public easement between lots 14 and 15 to allow for a pedestrian connection to get to that park. Along the west side of both the 4th, 5th, and 6th editions, and then the south side of the 6th edition, they're creating some smaller lots to accommodate the construction of duplexes. That's along the west side of Arbor Ridge Road and then the south side of Timber Cove Drive. If we go by the additions, the 4th edition is adding 10 lots for duplexes. The 5th edition is adding 16 lots, and the 6th edition's creating 26 additional lots. So that's an increase of 38 lots from that original preliminary plat. So the original preliminary plat did show those lots as being a little bit larger in size. They could have either been single family or 2-family, but what these are doing is splitting them so each of these duplexes have their own lot. Also at the southwest corner, which is now in the 6th edition, you can see this image on the left was the original preliminary plat. They showed Arbor's Drive curving, doing a curve, and then having a small cul-de-sac called Fernwood Court, kind of to create a couple more additional lots there at that southwest corner. What they're doing now with this revised preliminary plat is they're actually they're getting rid of the cul-de-sac at Fernwood Court, and then they're bringing Amber Valley Road, or is that Timber Cove Drive, sorry, straight down, and then it'll go straight north and south, and then east and west, and then they're also going to create a new street connection to that property to the west for future development. So you can see this actually, I think this might have gotten them just some additional lots by redoing the street layout. Again, it adds another connection to the west, and then it straightens out the road layout as well. Along with the plat changes, we did get several phone calls just kind of asking what some of these changes were and what some of these duplexes might look like on some of those lots. So the developer did provide us with some images of what may be some designs for these duplex lots. So you can see there's a couple images here. They're looking at either ranch concept or a 2-story concept. Both the ranch and the 2-story concept would be either in 2 or 3 bedroom variations with 2-stall attached garages. So you can see the front, have a standard driveway leading up to the door with some brick accents in the front. Same with the 2-story look as well. And the developers indicated that they're kind of looking this market in the $250,000 to $280,000 price point. So again, as I mentioned, I did receive a phone call. I believe Karen received a phone call as well after our notice to property owners went out last week with notifying the neighbors that this preliminary plat was coming to P&Z. And those were some of the questions. I think one of the main questions is, what are these duplexes going to look like? So again, this is an introductory item for the preliminary plat. I mean, if the P&Z Commission does feel comfortable with the changes, it's up to the commission whether or not they'd like to recommend approval and have it go straight to City Council, or if they'd like to have it come back for another look at the next P&Z meeting. So staff is comfortable though with the changes to the plat itself, the realigning the road, creating that additional road connection to the west, adding that pedestrian connection to the north. So if the commission's comfortable, staff would be recommending approval as well. So, and I believe the developer is joining the call here. So if there's anything to add, I think he can add anything too.
All right, great. Thank you, Shane. So let me see if I can get my attendees. Who's the developer? Is that Kevin Fitro?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to get Kevin in here. All right. Yeah. Kevin, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. You want to just give us your name and address?
Kevin Fitro, 4207 Jacob Circle, Cedar Falls, Iowa, with Skogman Homes Midwest Development. Just a couple quick comments, add-ons for Shane, so the commission has background as to why you're seeing some of the changes that you saw. Initially, when we first did this Arbor's development, as Shane mentioned, we were looking at going south to north with our phasing. The only agreement with the city was we would change that phasing if the school beat us to the north section. So we would change for the school district to get the school, the entrances, and accommodate that, all of the traffic patterns they needed. We would go north back down south if we had to. So that was on the schools, is the purpose that phasing changed. Our phasing now will be back north to south, coming 4th, 5th, 6th. Time frame, I know Shane had mentioned that was one of the questions. I'd love to give a time frame. I'd love to have that crystal ball on how quick we can move. Unfortunately, that's all going to be depending on the pace of sales in our area, and as we all know right now, the given market conditions. So hopefully that answers that question or that change. The north, that north extension of that North Street extension was covered. That was asked for, requested by the Parks Department, not something that was mandated by the development plans that we actually changed. That was, if they needed it, it was there. If we were ready to go that direction and it was not needed or they were not there yet, we had the right to take it out. So that was, again, that one. As we moved south, yes, our market conditions and where we see niches in the market and what products, who's buying, what the needs are, how do you get new construction right now in 250 to 280. Development costs are continually rising with requested. You're seeing one of the reasons down south with that west extension. At some point, we have to find a way to have lots marketable for certain price range of units. So duplexes with a 0 unit basis, so a 75-foot lot width, split in half, privately owned by each owner. That is much easier to sell these days with secondary lenders than it is a condo association. So if you looked across Des Moines, if you look across Cedar Rapids, Marion, Iowa City, these major areas, you're seeing more 0 lot lines today than you are actual condo units. From a product standpoint, you could go into Quail Ridge and see how we intermixed our condos with the single family, because some of this outside of the 2-story concept that right now is only a discussion point. The ranches is what we would move on right away. You would be able to see how we intermix those in the area and made them blend in and hold the values. Our main goal with that is hitting a price point that still maintains the values of our current homeowners that we're responsible to. Down to the south, the city actually, the engineering department requested another outlet to the west. They were the ones that posed that design of a straight street, straight north-south outlet, east-west. asked if we could make it feasible, if we could get it in. We were originally talking about duplexes along the west side in the north half, and then likely having that ability to either do duplexes or go back to single family with that cul-de-sac. Once they wanted that street extension, really the only way we could make it financially feasible was to change that idea to duplexes and get a few more lots to help offset the cost of their request. So that's really the background. The decision or the choice to kind of look at the lot types is driven by market conditions, which is one of the reasons that when we started the arbors, we went to the RP zoning, because it would give us that flexibility that if markets were drastically changing, we'd be able to manipulate our lot sizes or unit to a duplex unit if we needed to.
All right. Great. Thanks, Kevin. Anything else?
No, I'm here if you have questions.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you then, but if something comes up, raise your hand if there's something else you need to answer to, okay?
All right.
Thanks. All right. And then I guess at this point, we'll open it up for other comments from the general public. And does look like we have someone who would like to comment. So I'm going to, Amy, I'm going to turn you on here, hopefully. Are you there? Oops. There we go. Okay. All right, Amy, are you there?
Amy might need to unmute herself.
Yeah. Well, actually, mine's saying unmute. When I hit nothing is happening. It keeps showing it muted.
Yeah, Amy, if you go down to the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
There you
Okay,
are.
sorry. You undid that and my computer completely froze up at the most perfect time. So
Amy, you want to give us your name and address?
sure, Amy Ruby, I'm at 2932 Timber Cove in Cedar Falls, Arbors Edition.
Great, thank you.
Yep, I have a few questions, so bear with me. So, when we first built out here, it'll be almost 4 years ago, we had seen an original plat, and it looked like everything was going to be single family homes. Our home, once we do get our basement finished, is going to be well over $400,000. And now we're looking at, homes that are almost half that amount that are going to be literally on my same street. I'm on Timber Cove, and this is going to extend out, and there's going to be a bunch of duplexes that are, again, several $100,000 under my home value. I've seen neighborhoods like this in Dike, Iowa, off of the golf course, where you have these big, beautiful homes, and then literally right next door to them starts with these little ranches. It doesn't blend well, and it's going to be a huge hit to our home value. I just want to bring that up to you because, I know that the city wants their tax dollars, and this is probably a quicker way to get them because, Skogman obviously is having some issues selling the single family homes in the price range that we started in. And so now that's why they're looking at these duplexes, and as well as what Kevin just said, to offset whatever their costs are that they've had for other things. But I just really want you to take into consideration the people that have been out here for 4 or 5 years that have homes that are valued considerably higher than this. And this is not something that if we would have known that this was going to turn into a bunch of duplexes, we would never have built out here, because any way you put it, it's gonna impact our home value. So that was just a comment that I wanted to make there. I saw the base price. They said that they were looking at $250 to $280. I mean, is that really, or are they going to turn into, well, now we're going to look at $170 to $200? I mean, how when they say they're looking at that, is that really what they're going to try to do, or is it going to be even lower than that once this gets approved? That would be, I guess, my first question there.
Okay. Anything else, Amy?
Yeah, and I'd also like to know, like, when would this phase begin? So I'm on Timber Cove, and I heard a couple of things here that I was jotting notes down that they were switching the 4th and the 6th editions. So I'd like the time frame on the edition that is going to be right off of Timber Cove. I know Kevin said, you know, he doesn't know because it's based on market, but is the edition right off of Timber Cove still the final edition, or is that now like the 4th edition? And then lastly, are these going to be rentals? Are they going to be purchased? Is there going to be a homeowners association document? We have a very generic one right now. Is that going to, you know, change our yearly fee? Are they going to have monthly fees? Again, is there going to be something in there so that we're right by you and I, right? I don't want this to turn into, not only do we have duplexes that are half the price of the rest of our homes, but additionally, are they going to be a bunch of rentals? You know, are people going to be able to purchase these? And then we've got a bunch of renters around us as well. Those are just all my concerns.
Okay, great. Is that it? Is that everything, Amy?
Yes, yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you, and I'm gonna see if Kevin wants to maybe respond to these items. Kevin, are you still there?
Yep. No, I could definitely respond. That's the 6th edition. So unfortunately, I can't give a time frame. Typical editions, we're in them for about a year to a year and a half. So 3 editions, if you want to do that math, that's our best guess on when we can say we would be down to that corner.
Okay.
We're not there. I guess I would correct the comment. Our sales are still on budget and moving. You're just seeing a drastic change in where the buyers are at. If you look at the everyday absorption rates and houses sitting over 400,000 and having an 8 to 12 month supply for the last year or so, it's just an absolute and just a product of where the buyers are and what they're looking for. Buyers change what they want out of their houses all the time. The one thing that's been guaranteed through all of our markets is a $250,000 to $280,000 house in a subdivision as broad as ours has never affected the value of those above it. So we have zero. Like I said, we did this in Quail Ridge where I was over 500,000 and we had $223,000, $230,000 condos in there, and I sold my home just fine. If you look in Prairie right next to us, they have duplexes going in throughout the development randomly. We looked at this from a respect standpoint and kept them on a boundary and kept them together and grouped versus trying to intermix them in the development. The other option is we look at going to smaller lots, and right now we have the ability in this subdivision to build a $270,000, $280,000 home. It's not usually as popular as the duplexes are, and as we talked in the development, they don't offset lot costs to help with the current increases that we see year over year. So that's one reason that we look at the development of the duplexes versus going to single family. But we have houses in that price range in close to that right now, and we watch people sell their homes every day just fine. So sales, the value on the price point, Kyle's on this committee. I think he could probably answer. It's pretty tough to build anything new under 250 without a very good priced lot. Inexpensive. It's typically infill. So I'm very confident in where our housing values are and where these will be, just purely out of what we know we can and can't do in new subdivisions today. So association, they're going to fall into the association just like every other house in here. They're actually one lot, so the $100 would be split between the 2 owners. So each would pay $50 a year paying into the development.
And what the third kind of part of the question was rental or owner occupied?
That to me comes down, I mean, we don't have a restriction. We didn't in Quail Ridge put a restriction in the covenants that they can't. It's usually dictated by what can you get for rent. I've never been able to find a $250,000 to $280,000 home that you're going to get rented for any type of good profit, even especially to college kids. But we would do our best to try to watch for if we hear it or know it, but there would not be a clause in there for rentals.
Okay. Very good. All right, thank you. I'm gonna mute you, Kevin, unless you had any other comments.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Looks like Amy, I'm gonna bring Amy back. Amy, you wanted follow-up questions?
Yeah, if I could, thank you. The follow-up would be more of a statement, but I'm extremely concerned about, it would be very, very easy, and I think it would be the right thing for Skogman to do, at least for the people that are here and, and have the homes already, they've already gotten our money, to at minimum put in a clause in the association fee to not have rentals. At minimum. I mean, this is the very least that they could do. It's not going to harm them, and if if Kevin claims that you can't rent houses that expensive, A, untrue, but B, if that's the case, then he should have no issue redoing the homeowners association before this gets approved and putting a clause in there not to have rentals. That would be the minimum I think that they should and could be willing to do for their customers or former customers, however they look at it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Amy. I'm gonna mute you again. I don't know, Kevin, was there any follow-up to that?
I mean, I can definitely talk to the development company about that. I guess we would probably have to check with our attorneys.
Sure.
I mean, a $280,000 home, what we're going to make sure is we've never told somebody you can't rent out your single family home. So if you've got a single family home in that same price range, we are very respectful to our homeowners. We're looking at this value. At the end of the day, we're the developer. We're the ones with everything on the line. And we're very confident, given the history of the market, that values aren't going to be affected. If values change at all, it's the market telling you what they're willing to buy your home for. So I have no issues looking at possibly putting something in there. We just have to make sure it's not something that tries to set a stage against the single family owners as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I'm gonna go back because it looks.
Real quick, Marty, one other comment.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I would also say I'm more than happy to talk to Amy sidebar on if she has more concerns and answer these questions. So I would throw that out. She's welcome to call.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. And it looks like, Amy, you there? I'm bringing you back in. You have your hand up still?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to have it up.
Okay. All right.
That's all my questions. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I will bring this now, seeing no other hands up. I'll bring it back to the commission and just note that Shane, typically this is the first time this has been on the agenda. So normally we would have an introduction and then and discussion, and then go to a second meeting to take action on it. Now you have suggested that the city is good with the proposal as is, and so would not mind it only having one review. However, I guess I might suggest, given the fact that we do have some discussion here tonight on some different requests, that it might be good to, I would suggest the commission or whoever makes the motion, but that we might want to give it one more meeting for people to digest things and maybe bring back some follow-up on the comments from Amy and Kevin.
Right. Yeah, Marty, you're right. When the staff report was written, obviously we didn't have those comments and phone calls yet. So
right.
Yeah, there was some real good discussion here this evening. So yeah, I mean, staff wouldn't be opposed to letting this go back to one more meeting to see if there's any additional discussion at another meeting.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Shane. So commissioners, comments, discussion, questions?
I had one question. I believe it was in one of our future visioning meetings about the projected population and housing needs for that population. I can't remember the price range of housing and type of housing that we needed. I don't know if one of you could answer that. I feel like the 250 range was there and one of the needs of the city for future development, but I might be wrong.
I'm not certain, Leslie, what study you were thinking about.
I can't remember if it was like the city it's the really thick document about the full study of the city and population changes and all of that. And I feel like it's in there. It's a breakdown of what the housing needs are going to be or projected housing needs.
Okay, I mean, we can take a look and see if there's anything in the comprehensive plan about that. Of course, they would be just projections about that. I would guess that more up-to-date information is probably available through the current real estate market, knowing what the market is. But we can certainly, I think that document dates from 2012. So,
okay.
So it's a little while ago that document was produced. But we can certainly take a look in there and see if there's anything valuable there. Bring it back to you.
I have a question maybe for staff, just a clarification rather. On a preliminary plat, what makes the decision as to whether there would be a second meeting or not? Is it just if questions come up, or how's that typically handled? Is there a hard and fast rule or protocol that we follow there?
No, I believe it is totally up to the commission and what you decide. I think typically we have had a history of having 2 meetings for each item, just so it allows for the public to know about it and hear about it. So if there is public discussion about an item, they have several chances to comment and weigh in on the meeting. So I think that's been the practice, but I think when there's not a lot of public comment or question at a meeting, it's totally up to the commission on whether to move that forward if you're comfortable.
Well, I think the plat makes good sense to me for the most part. I think with the new environment that we're in and the nature of these meetings, I would agree that just for that reason, if anything, it makes sense to have another meeting to make the decision and bring more discussion into it. Maybe add some light to a few of these general questions. But in general, I think it looks pretty straightforward and makes sense with the directions of things in general.
Other questions, comments?
I would have one, it's kind of a question and a comment, but been on the commission for a while, and there seems to be a continuing pattern of homeowners not understanding when they purchase their house what is allowed in a certain zoning district. And it's happened time and time again. And I know, traditionally the big houses get built and then a little bit smaller houses get built and then maybe duplexes get built, and that's the way it works. But I guess I would ask the staff, is there anything that we can do to more clearly communicate to homeowners what the zoning, what's possible to exist in that zoning? Because I think there's a pretty broad misunderstanding about it when people buy houses.
Yeah, so in this district, it's a planned residential district. So that is one of the reasons we're bringing this back to the commission and the council for review, is because this is a requested change to that master plan. So with a master planned development, the developer is required to come up with a master plan, and then if they want to make changes based on the market and that sort of thing, they certainly can do so. But then that's why we have another public discussion at that time.
Yeah,
My
and
question
Karen,
is-
to be more specific, I mean, the idea with the RP, it's you have a set site plan, and that the idea is you're really not going to vary from that unless you amend it like this, correct? Versus if it was just R zone, well, then we wouldn't be having this discussion because duplexes would be allowed under that scenario, right?
Yes, in the R1 zone, duplexes are allowed. Both duplexes and single-family homes are allowed under, they have certain lot requirements
Yeah.
for those types of buildings.
Right. So for this kind of plan development, this is the fallback then to changing kind of the use. Is it opens it up for people to be able to have comment on that.
So for example, right now on the lots in this development, I believe, and Shane can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe when this RP plan was developed, it did mention, single family duplex. So the change here is to split those lots, as Mr. Fitro said, so that each one has its own tax lot.
Yeah.
Right.
That changes.
So could have put duplexes on in this development without splitting those lots.
Right. It's really the only change then to the use, if I'm understanding then, is we're dividing the lot so you can have separate ownership rather than a shared or a condo type of arrangement between two units.
That's right. That's right. So each person that would buy one of those units would buy the land and the unit, just
Yeah.
like a single family homeowner. It's just that they would be attached units.
And just to clarify, correct me if I'm wrong, if those lots are basically being pre-divided, there wouldn't be anything to stop them had they been normal size lots from being parsed out as 0 lot lines at the time of building. Is that correct?
So they wouldn't be 0 lot lines, they'd be duplexes then. And I know that's a distinction there, but a 0 lot line means that there's an actual lot line between the two units and they're separate tax lots, right? Whereas a duplex means that there's 2 units on one single tax lot.
Right.
Okay, I guess I was under the understanding that that in on a standard residential lot you could divide by one time to or divide by 2 for 0 lot line at any point as long as those minimum sizes are met. But regardless, this is cleaner by identifying in advance.
Well, you certainly can condo the units, but you can't split the land unless you do a subdivision.
Okay.
And
My point is,
real quick,
go ahead, Shane.
Mr. Leeper's point. So, it is kind of tough when we run through the process of like rezoning or plats, and then someone buys a lot that's kind of out of our hands. I guess we rely a lot on the realtor, right, to kind of let them know what they're buying, what zoning district, and then also in the deed of dedication. So the deed of dedication that the homeowner that should get from the realtor or from the developer hopefully helps spell out what those restrictions are, what the zoning is. And, we've gotten our share of calls from prospective buyers that are questioning things before they buy a lot, and we would certainly encourage that. I've had my share of people that come in, want to see the plats, want to see the zoning ordinance, want to know what they can do on something before they even get into anything. But and we're certainly more than happy to do that. But a lot of times after we plat these lots and they're ready for development, we're hoping the realtors and other people kind of hopefully are able to convey that information to the potential buyer of what they're buying and what any restrictions are, what zoning is, things like that.
Yeah, my point is that's the exception. That person's probably the exception rather than the rule based on my experience on the commission. And most of it is just misunderstanding. And I guess my question is there anything we can do to make it clearer for people what they're getting into when they're buying? It's something to look at.
The only thing I could think of that might be helpful, and I don't know how practical this is, but there are a lot of resources, many on the Cedar Falls website that, as a building and a real estate professional that I was unaware of even just a few years ago. And if there was a way to maybe summarize what some of those features and resources are, and maybe just get it into the Currents magazine, something like that periodically, and/or maybe something to the Board of Realtors. Most real estate agents have a packet of a dozen or so things that they include whenever anybody buys a house, and I could see where that would be really valuable in the long game to help educate people. Certainly something to consider anyway.
That would be a good idea.
Further discussion? Seeing none, should we move this then on to the next meeting for further review?
I don't know if a motion is necessary, but I would move to defer the item to approve at the next meeting.
Great.
I'll second.
All right.
Was that Leanne? I'm sorry.
That was
It's
Shelley.
Shelley. I second it.
Shelley. Okay, Shelley. Okay.
So we will, we'll just do a voice vote to carry this to the next meeting. So all in favor, signify by aye.
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 All opposed? So we'll continue this discussion at our next meeting. So we thank everybody for their participation, and maybe we'll have a few answers to a couple of the questions that were brought up tonight. We have one more item of business, and that is a street right-of-way vacation on Prairie Parkway. And this is one that I have a conflict of interest on, so I'll be abstaining from the discussion. I'm going to be handing the chair over to Vice Chair Brad Leeper to review this item. So Brad, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, Marty.
Mr. Chair, I also have a conflict of interest. I will be abstaining as well.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Amanda.
All right, so Western Home right-of-way vacation on Prairie Parkway, and I think JD is going to introduce this item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lieber. I'll just start sharing a screen, if you may wait a second. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes, good evening, everyone. This is a case for street right-of-way vacation plat for Prairie Parkway. On the left side, the image shows that the part that is to be vacated is marked out with a star, whereas on the right side, there's more like detailed information with the Google map showcasing the part that is to be vacated. Just a bit of more additional details with the request. This vacation of this right-of-way will allow the portion. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yep, sorry. Yep. This location for public right-of-way to be vacated lies on the southwest corner of intersection of Prairie View Road and Prairie Parkway roundabout. And this request is basically allow the adjacent owner, the Western Home, to put up an entranceway sign in this location. So that is basically the request for. Giving you a bit of background on this case, we go to our next slide. I think there is a bit of trouble here. Just hang on a second. Yep. Sorry about that. On this slide, we can see, so the highlighted red portion is the area to be vacated, which is about 21,995 square feet. This portion of Prairie Parkway was conveyed to city by Auster Family Limited Partnership through an acquisition plat in April 7, 2014. And at that time, a roundabout was to be constructed in this area at this intersection at Prairie View Road and Prairie Parkway. However, because of design change, this resulted in an access public right-of-way. So there was an easement that was there is a 30 feet wide easement, which includes landscape, drainage, and utility, which aligns on the west line of the current right-of-way. But there are no utilities in that segment. So the easement is not needed where it is vacated. Moving on to the next slide. This was our basic analysis of the vacation plat. The right-of-way have currently a public sidewalk that allows the pedestrian and bicycle movement that is along the Prairie Parkway and the entire corridor. And this should be retained as a right-of-way by the city. However, the remainder of the land is not needed for any traffic or pedestrian movement, which is this area, as you can see on the screen. However, vacating this portion will not block any future anticipated driveway to access to Prairie Parkway. So we have taken care about that. And the third thing was the current easement in blue, indicated on the blue, is a 30 feet wide landscape drainage and utility easement that will be vacated as well, because that contains the existing utilities are contained in that particular easement. And a 10 feet utility easement will also need to be established along the Prairie View Road at the north end area, this segment here. I've mentioned on the slide that the right-of-way vacation plat hasn't been attached, but in last week we got the revised plat, and it should be ready before we send that to council. So yeah, we have received that from the applicant. So our planning and zoning staff, the vacation plat here today is just for discussion and public comment purposes. And if P&Z Commission is comfortable with the submitted vacation plat, it is their decision whether to forward for additional P&Z Commission review on 13th May or to send the recommendation to approve City Council on the next City Council meeting on May 4th. The Community Development Department recommends approval of this proposed right-of-way vacation, subject to the following stipulation: that a 30 feet wide landscape drainage and utility easement is to be established on the vacated portion as shown on the attached plat, and a 10 feet utility easement is established along the Prairie View Road. That would be it. Any questions or concerns?
Thank you, JD. Does anyone have any questions for JD in terms of clarifications on the commission? Hearing none, does the applicant have any additions or clarifications? I don't see anyone else in the attendees list. I don't see any, we don't have any public on the line. Is that true? If there is, you can raise your hand. We have participants by computer and phone, but I don't see anyone. Is that correct, Karen?
disputed.
You're muted, Karen.
No, I also do not see any participants on the line.
Okay, so we'll close public comments. Any discussion by commission?
I think this is pretty straightforward, and since there's no issues or concerns, I would move to approve.
Is there a second?
Shelley Wald, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, so Karen, we do a roll call vote.
Sorry about that. Atkins,
Yes.
Hartley,
Aye.
Pulse. Oh, sorry, you're recusing
Aye.
yourself. Larson,
Aye.
Leeper,
Aye.
Prideaux,
Aye.
Saul.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, so that motion carries, and that will move on to planning and zoning at the next, or I'm sorry, to the commission, city council at the next meeting.
Yes.
All right. With that, I will hand it back over to Marty for closure.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate that. So that concludes all of our regular business for tonight. And we have commission updates. Anything for us, Karen, or?
I don't have any specific other than we will keep you apprised of any changes. We may have another Zoom meeting for the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, but we will certainly let you know as things evolve.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much. It's a interesting time, so.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our regular business for this April 22nd meeting. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I got a second. All right. All in favor signify by aye.
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 We are adjourned. We'll
Thanks,
see you
everybody.
next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.